What is up, everybody? Welcome to the Original Next Level Gaming Podcast. I want to welcome everybody in on this great Sunday night. We have a special edition of our NLG podcast. We are welcoming in a very special guest. He is to your upper right. He is the IOCat himself, director of the ID at Xbox program for Microsoft, Mr. Chris Charla. Chris, how you doing?
Good. How's it going? Thanks for having me on.
Thanks for coming.
It is our pleasure. This has been it's been a long time coming, actually. We've talked about this 2 or 3 times, and it's great to have you finally come on. And we're right bumping up against E3, which is a good time to maybe prod you a little bit.
I'm sure I can talk about a lot.
Yeah. When's Cuphead coming out? You just
this year. The developers said this year. I can answer that question on behalf of the Studio MD HR guys. No problem.
That's not the most important question. The most important question is, what kind of poutine do you like the most?
I've had poutine in Canada, and they sell poutine at a bunch of places here in Seattle, and it's not quite the real thing, but pretty much if you cover anything in gravy and cheese, it's going to taste okay. So
yeah, gravy and cheese is good on pretty much lots of things.
Confirmed. I could agree with that.
Never had any poutine, so don't know.
Oh, you're missing
out.
But
I love cheese.
You're missing out.
Cheese is good.
I mean, I'm from Holland, so we're loving cheese.
This is true. This is one of the probably most international podcasts you may be on, Chris. Somebody from Holland. We got a Canadian. We got Juan.
We don't even know where he is yet.
I don't know where Nathan's in a undisclosed location somewhere.
Yeah.
Nathan,
what do you shelter got somewhere?
What do you got behind you this week? This is our thing. Every week he's got a new
the
toy.
Modern Warfare.
Oh, nice.
Good Lord, man.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah,
awesome.
It's actual, glasses. So when I get blinded, when someone flashes through the flashlight, I killed it. But anyway,
night vision goggles.
I got the cool guy above my head, so I have to do everything perfect, and I mess it up.
Awesome. So, anyway, welcome aboard. Tonight we just want to dedicate a lot of time to the ID at Xbox program, kind of talk about where the program is now, where we think it's going. Talk about you a bit, because you are an interesting guy as well, and I think there's a few things that people don't know about you that I think would surprise people. And so, trust me, and just talk about games and the game industry and indie games, because I think you'll find that between all of us, we've discovered, especially in this generation, the strength of indie games and how they have really come into their own over what happened last gen with the Xbox 360 and stuff like that. I mean, they're in a position now that I don't think they've ever been in, making a force in the industry itself.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's been amazing kind of journey, like for the game industry. And I mean, I remember before I worked at Microsoft, I was an independent developer, and we actually shipped one of the very first games on Xbox Live Arcade, which was like an arcade recreation, like an emulation of Joust, Robotron, and Defender. And at the time, like Xbox Live Arcade, I think the vision was that it was really going to be arcade-style games and really small games. And then what happened was that when people saw like, hey, there's this new distribution mechanism where I don't have to fit a game or I don't have to expand a game to fit on a disc and, have to try and justify this frontline $60 price point. Developers realized that actually opened up a lot of freedom to do games that were maybe smaller, maybe bigger, it doesn't matter. Like, it's just like the right size of game, and digital distribution, like suddenly I basically just opened up this pathway to all these games that were kind of missing, honestly, I would say, from the game industry. Because I think, having been in the game industry and even been a journalist before that, I'd always talk to creators, and you'd always hear about, like, these weird little ideas, or, like, wouldn't it... I mean, I remember, like, literally 20 years ago saying, hey, there's art house theaters where you can go see kind of small movies that are outside the mainstream, and once in a while those movies break out, win an Academy Award and everything like that. How come there's no version of that for games? And then suddenly when we changed the distribution mechanism or added this distribution mechanism of digital distribution, like all of a sudden that became possible. And starting in, I always started with 2008, that Summer of Arcade with Braid and Castle Crashers, and which is now like almost 10 years ago, like it just blew up, and it's just been getting bigger and bigger. And if you fast forward to today on Xbox One, we don't have indie games in a section. There's just a game is a game on the store, and the games like it's really interesting. I would say on Xbox One now, there is this continuum of games that go all the way from the massive blockbuster Halo and Final Fantasy, all the way down to really small, very personal games that are made just by one creator, something like 3/4 Home or Wheels of Aurelia, which is made by, I think, two people, and literally everything in between. So, depending on, the kind of game you want, there is like something there. And it feels awesome. It feels super cool to be like a tiny part of making that happen. So it's pretty fun.
That's pretty spectacular. Is Slain one of those really small time? I would say small time, but like personal type developers.
Yeah, I'm not actually sure how big the developer is for Slain, but yeah, it's a pretty. I think it's a pretty small development team.
Yeah, I was really impressed with them because they brought it out and they then took feedback and then they redid the game actually, and it improved it so greatly. And I'm a huge fan of the game and of the developer too. I've gone back and forth with him on Twitter a couple of times, and seems like a really cool dude.
I'm still stuck on the first level of that game.
So hard.
But it's gorgeous. Like, I love that sort of. I don't think I need pixel art in every single game, but there's some games where it just really feels good and really feels like the right thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, and this is I had this question for later, but this makes a very good segue into some news that happened over the week. We're starting to see now that there's a lot more contraction and attrition happening in the bigger game development. We heard about what happened with BioWare this week, and out of nowhere, Square Enix has decided they want to sell IO Interactive, and that puts that's Hitman and Deus Ex. So now we're talking about more as companies are going to this games as a service bit. Everybody wants to be Overwatch now. Do indie developers and sort of as you are talking to the developers and working with the developers, are they kind of licking their chops as the ability to maybe fill in that gap that is obviously now going away as these companies are moving more towards, everything has to be an arena shooter?
I don't know if everything has to be an arena shooter, and
I'm being facetious, obviously, but
I really apologize. I've been so heads down with kind of just some planning right now. I have not been paying attention to the video game news, but I will say, generally speaking, that what's amazing to me is that independent developers are not. I think if you look 5 years ago or 10 years ago, when you thought of what an indie game was, it was usually a throwback to an old game style, side scrolling, either pixel art or hand drawn art, lots of sprites, and that's not the case anymore. There's certainly still like pixel art happening now, but it's more of a design decision than it is like a requirement, and that's what an indie game is. Sorry, I'm doing so many finger quotes.
Okay.
If you look at games like Astroneer, which is made by a really small studio, I think the team that launched the game was 6 on the day it launched, but it was really 4 for most of the development, and really only like I think 2 full time for a lot of the development, and then 4 towards the last I think year or 6 months. Like that is a full 3D open world sandbox game that was put together by a really small team with a really unique current modern art style. It's kind of a flat shaded polygon look with like low res polygons or small number of polygons, and like it's just amazing. And you look at that game and it like that you would have no idea how big the team was that made that game just playing it. And there's certainly tons of other examples too, like of games that look super cool, and that don't follow the kind of old school style, that are from independent developers.
I really liked the UI in the game you mentioned in Astroneer, how they put the UI basically on the pack or on the vehicles, and it's kind of intrinsically built in. I love that.
Yeah, I mean those guys are so smart, and they're all, or most of them are like really veteran developers who'd been at different studios, and they really that's a classic example of where these guys were doing very well in their careers at like different big studios, but they had an idea, and they had passion around this idea, and they knew exactly what they wanted to do. I was really fortunate, and then we got to meet with the Astroneer guys really early after they started. They came in to show us like really, really early, and then we got to see how the game evolved up until now that it shipped into Xbox Game Preview and Early Access. And those guys knew exactly what game they wanted to make from like the first day. Like they knew exactly where they were going. So things like having the UI on the pack, so there's just no visible UI in the game. You could tell these are guys who've played games for a long time and were like, man, the next game I make, if I get to make a game, like there's not going to be any UI on screen. Like we're going to do, and it's just awesome. It's awesome to see that kind of thing.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, and so I know you've been heads down from the gaming news, and I guess where I was going with that was what we're seeing is like I say, Square Enix they've just out of the blue they're putting IO Interactive up for sale. They said pretty much flat out what we want to go after is games as a service. So when I said everything wants to be an arena shooter, I was being facetious, but everybody's kind of seen that success rate with Overwatch and Activision.
Yeah, those loot boxes.
Right. Well, Activision, we talked about it last week. Activision considers that $1 billion franchise now, and it's one game. It's not even a game in a series. So everybody is seeing that in the big conglomerate of EA, Activision, and such, and they all want to go chasing after that. That leaves a hole in a lot of us older gamers too, where we don't have those platformers and first-party games. We don't get the ukuleles from the big developers anymore. So it seems like the ID at Xbox program is perfect to get that emptiness as bigger developers are pulling away, to get those games in, like a ukulele, which was obviously a big game. And as other developers can ramp up, we're seeing, and you can speak to this a little bit, we're seeing some of the smaller developers even growing. The 505 games, Team 17, they're starting to pull in bigger games as a result.
Knocked over my microphone.
What are you doing, Jason?
You wanted to say
I promised him a professional podcast, man.
Yeah.
So anyway,
That's down the drain.
He just forgot who he does it with is all.
I have a cat staring at me through my basement window right now. So
Awesome. What kind of cat?
it's like a half Siamese, half orange tabby. It's called a flame point.
Nice.
Nice.
A very nice cat. It's got high emotional intelligence. It's not super smart. But
That's why he's staring at
Hopefully he doesn't understand you.
no, trust me, he doesn't. No, he's a good cat. But yeah, to answer your question, absolutely. Like we see independent developers. Like one thing independent developers are great at doing is kind of filling niches, and because so many independent developers are making games from their heart, right? Or that's kind of where they start. Obviously, people want to pay their mortgage and make money and everything like that, but because they're making games from their heart, you see a lot more love letters to old genres, I think, on in the independent scene, as well as attempts at making new genres and everything like that. And so it's kind of cool. Like I really do think that one great thing that independent developers do is that they do kind of fill out that broad portfolio. And one thing we said when we launched ID was that we wanted to make sure that when a player turned on their Xbox One, that he or she would see just the broadest, most diverse array of games on Earth, and there's just no way we could do that without independent developers. Whether it's them, bringing back something from an old genre like ukulele, or a game like Crawl, which takes a really old genre, the dungeon crawler, and does something completely new and different with it, and turns it into like a 4-player multiplayer kind of competitive experience that's super, super fun. Or it has just a super hot flash on screen. I mean, look at those guys. They took like this, really conventional game genre, first-person shooter, stood it on its head with like one cool idea, and then fleshed that out with an awesome meta game and just awesome, gameplay, and it's been super successful for them.
Yeah, it's a great story.
Yeah, it really is. And everybody wants to be the next, of course, Minecraft, the big game that blows up into a multi-million-dollar franchise. But I mean, even Playdead's Inside just flashed up on the screen for a minute. These are games that I know for me, I stopped everything else I was playing to play that game. Same thing with No Time. The same thing with No Time to Explain. I got so hooked on that game that I forgot I had other games to play, and just rolled through it. I'm trying to think of another one like that was Guacamelee. So
that was a good one.
It really was. And so these are the kind of games that I'd like to see continue forward as we go on, so that we have these to do. And I know I give you another good one that Juan played a lot of, and he had a really good successful set of videos on, with Kerber Space Program. Just something totally different and not done before. So it's nice to see that these developers have nothing tying them down to, we have to make this kind of game, because that's what a big third AAA developer is demanding us to make. And so we get these games, and it's got to be really fun to work with those developers to get those on your platform.
It's awesome. Like it's the best. It's fantastic. I mean, like I spent a long time as a developer, 10 years, and so I get to hang out with other developers. This is kind of in the bad old days of independent development, where most of your work was kind of work for hire, licensed games, that kind of thing. But I always loved hanging out with my fellow developers and just talking shop and everything. And then now to be in a position where I get to like meet tons more developers, because kind of my job is to go out and meet as many developers as possible, and then see all these different cool things they're working on, and then actually be in a position to help them and like get them onto Xbox, or give them the latest kind of data that we see to hopefully improve their game and everything like that. Like I will just I don't want to sound like I'm bragging, but I have a lot of job satisfaction. Like I love my job. It's so much fun just to get to work with these guys and just see. Just first of all, you get to meet so many rad people from like all over the world, like China, Luxembourg, Poland. Pick a country, and then just to see like so many ideas. It's overwhelming. It's fantastic. It's really, really fun.
Well, I'll trade you.
Yeah,
you can take calls for a mid-level cable company, and that'll be a good trade.
Yeah.
I'm probably okay.
Hard pass.
So when the Idea Xbox program was created, do you feel it has done what it was set out to do when you guys originally thought of it?
Wow, that's a really good question. Because I don't feel like sometimes we'll pause. Like we just had this thing where we the 500th game from an independent developer shipped through ID, and so we kind of took a pause and sort of trying to celebrate those developers, and we even internally, like I think we had some cake, or we haven't had cake yet, but we're going to.
I didn't get cake.
I promise there'll be cake. And it's cool to do that, but and I guess from one sense, like a couple of things we really wanted to make sure we did when we started out, like I think we are accomplishing. Like we wanted to make sure we provided independent developers like a great forum to sell their games, and we wanted to make sure that we had a huge selection of games for players. And like ID developers have made. Well, we've said this publicly, you know, hundreds of millions of dollars selling their games on Xbox One, which means that Xbox fans and Xbox players have spent a lot of money on those games, you know, which, you know, means that they're really enjoying those games. So it's been a virtuous cycle for everybody. It's fantastic. But I will say the attitude at Xbox and an ID at Xbox is no different. Is really not one to be like, yeah, we did it, like sweet, like let's all go home early today. Like so we don't. Maybe this is bad. Like I always say, like this is awful, probably, but you know, like there's going to be tons of time to reflect on your successes, like when you're retired. You know, like when you're like working, like it's not about like, oh, we did a good job yesterday. It's about like, hey, what can we do tomorrow? And like, hey, we gotta. Like, you know, there's always something we could be doing better. There's always something new that's happening that we need to like react to and help developers with. And so, I guess in one sense, it does feel like we've set out a lot of what we accomplished. But in the other sense, like, you know, as soon as you get up to something where you think you're done, you just look and you're like, oh, there's another hill. And so, so there's still plenty of stuff we can do for developers.
Well, then allow me then to do it for you and congratulate you and the team, because I'm one of the guys who's spending the money on it, because so many of this generation's best experiences for me have been through the program. Like I was saying in the chat, that one of my biggest accomplishments, I think, in a game this generation is doing a full moon mission in the Kerbal Space game from
nice.
You know, lift off and land on the moon, get samples, fly back, land. The guy survived, you know, and there's a lot of great stories behind all the failures that it took to get there. But that, you know, inside obviously Oxenfree, I love Shantae, Massive Chalice, Rebel Galaxy. I evangelized for that game.
Nice.
Hand of Fate is huge. I loved Hand of Fate. Long before it went Game of Gold and told everyone to get it was Game of Gold. I'm actually excited for the tabletop version of that game that's coming too. There's going to be a card-based, you know, tabletop
nice.
coming. I'm very excited for that. But you guys really brought some real quality content, and I want to say thanks for that.
Oh yeah, well, I mean, thank you. And like, you know, I'm always the person who kind of gets trotted out to be the face of the program, but obviously we have a team, like a huge team. Well, not huge. We have about like 24 people maybe worldwide, and who do like all whom work as hard as me, if not harder, and probably harder, and are awesome. And I mean, we've built like just the team that we have is amazing, and like the you know, every single person on the team is really passionate about the space and really plays games and a lot, you know, which you'd expect, obviously. But, you know, it's not just like the folks who are answering emails play a lot of games. Like, you know, our database architect who, you know, has architected our whole back end is one of the most like, you know, passionate gamers I know. She's like super, you know, super into adventure games, super into Tomb Raider, and you know, and so the whole team is just like unbelievable. Makes it fun to go to work.
Cool.
Totally jealous.
If there's one thing that you could have a do-over with this idea at Xbox, what would you change? Or
oh, that's a really good question. Man, that is good.
More cake days.
Yeah. You know,
Bad for the diet.
If I was gonna do anything different, if we could have just fast forwarded everything that we did by about 6 months at the beginning, I think that's what I would do differently for sure. I mean, we all know that when Xbox One was announced, it wasn't exactly like the highest, brightest point in Xbox history, and we knew a lot of stuff that was gonna happen, but you know, that we didn't talk about. And if we had, you know, if I could go back in history and know everything that was going to happen, maybe we would announce ID 6 months before we did and do everything 6 months earlier.
okay, cool.
And you know what? From a perspective of watching a lot of that unfold, I think I can speak for a lot of people listening that's refreshing to hear, because you know, look, I a lot of people, the internet can be very cruel and mean and
Says when.
unnecessarily, right? And
The
unnecessarily,
internet, really?
right? And unnecessarily, but there was a lot of angst in the indie development community before. I guess I'm guessing before. When did you exactly come aboard? Were you aboard before the program launched?
Yeah, I was at XBLA, and then we had a lot of plans internally about how we should change, because we knew, I think Microsoft did so much awesome pioneering work on Xbox 360 with Xbox Live Arcade, but I think we were in some ways like a little bit of a victim of our own success, because we did something in 2005, 2006, that really started to pay off in 2007, 2008, but by like 2012, like it wasn't like as the industry was changing so fast and the independent development scene was changing so fast that we suddenly were like behind the times, even though we had originally been the pioneer. And so there was a lot of ideas about how we were going to change things, and different discussions about things we could do. And we went out and talked to a ton of developers and listened to a ton of developers about what they wanted in a program. But I think we took some knocks on Twitter and in the media, and they were deserved, because we weren't doing the right thing for developers at the time. We were always trying to do the right thing, but I don't think we just started to lag behind the industry. And then hopefully with ID, we caught up, and then have, we try and make sure that we stay ahead of what developers need. I think we're doing, we can always be doing better, but we're trying really hard. But yeah, it was it was, everything happens for a reason, and I think 2013 happened for a reason, and the only thing that I really take out of it is we've just got to. When I look at Xbox now, like the whole team Xbox, from having Phil Spencer as the head of Xbox, Mike Ibarra, my boss, who I'm not going to name because it's a super private person.
Oh, I was going to say, if you were telling me Mike was your boss.
No.
Okay.
Mike Ibarra is not my boss, but my boss is pretty private, so I'm not going to drop his name. And just like all the folks who worked there, who everybody knows publicly, Major Nelson, AC Bongos, but then all the people who you don't know publicly, it's an amazing crew, and a lot of that crew was there in 2013, and really learned a lot of lessons, and it really informs a lot of what we do every single day in terms of just trying to make sure we stay humble, stay hungry, and always be thinking about the player is the ultimate. Hey, that's the most important thing. And and my team, obviously, we're it's to a large extent a developer program, so we think about both the players, but our minute to minute challenge is always like developers and how we make things good for developers.
That's great, and I remember Phil doing an interview with somebody, and he had I can't remember what interview it was, but he said that a lot of people at Microsoft took a lot of that criticism in 2013 personally, and you can kind of see it as the company is sort of bearing out where it wants to go overall. And look, I think people have to step back and realize that going into E3 this year, you're right. You guys have just released your 500th game, on the ID at Xbox program, where it wasn't that long ago where you weren't the platform that loved indies and that kind of thing. And so that and there were indie developers who were actively in media and stuff like that, kind of shunning the platform, and now a lot of those developers are bringing their games to the platform, which I think is great. So one question I have, whether you think good or not, is when did you guys feel like things were starting to turn a corner?
I have no idea.
Was there
was
there a specific game that you had, some specific, like, oh my god, okay, we got this, and now I feel like we're really heading in the right direction?
No.
Okay.
I mean, maybe I should say yes, but no. I mean,
Yeah,
we're always
be
just
honest.
trying to think of how we can do better. So like, it's kind of like, and maybe this is just me personally. Like, I do celebrate the wins. Like, if a game is coming to Xbox that I'm really excited about, I'll go in my office and fist pump, or you know what I mean, and be pretty excited. But it's like, it like that's like a 10-second pause to like, okay, that was super sweet. Like, I just need to stop and recognize that is awesome. I'm gonna get to play that game on Xbox One. And then it's just back to work. But I don't want to make it sound like I'm like some grump or something like that. Like, I like the work and I like the challenge and I like trying to do cool stuff.
I think
So,
we can. I mean, I think just talking to you, we can see that. I don't
Yeah.
think that's. Yeah, I mean, even right now, like I can sense the energy you have, and you've got to have that in to make it in this industry.
Yeah. I mean, it's fun. And so I was going to give maybe like one of the worst analogies in the history of mankind. Maybe I'll do it because
Go for it.
Could now go down in history as the worst analogy ever. I think about people who love yard work. Okay, and there's certain people who love yard work. They love being out there in their yard, trimming and mowing and edging and planting and mulching and all these other things. And then, and there are people who are like designed to do yard work. Like, that's what they love to do. And then there's other people, and I'd put myself in this category. I'm more designed to enjoy yard work. I'm more designed to look at somebody else's yard work and say wow, that is a beautiful yard. But I have no desire on a weekend to spend my weekend doing something that involves carrying around dead plants. It's just not my thing. So I will say that when it comes to ID at Xbox or Xbox generally, I'm more somebody who wants to be in there working. That's where I get all the pleasure, is trying to make things better for developers and meet developers and do stuff. But I'm not somebody who spends a lot of time, kind of going oh, wow, we nailed it on that one. It's just, that's a 10-second thing. And the fun for me is the yard work aspect of it, of actually doing the stuff. That is literally the worst analogy a human has ever made.
You know what I think is pretty cool? On your Beam channel, you guys every week showcase games, a bunch of different games that have launched that week. And the people that are streaming it, they're having a blast doing it. I love that you guys do that.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, whether it's Jill or Nate and Glenn or James, Lewis, who streams sometimes, and Wally, I know, gets in there, it's super fun, that's the moment when you are actually working in the game industry and getting paid to play games. What, that's awesome.
Well, so if I might, there's one. So when you talk about, yeah, you can kind of celebrate the wins a little bit, but then move on. I still think that there are, and I'll just give you mine, because I think one of these is kind of important, only because being an older gamer and an older game journalist too, back when you were doing it, I was kind of in that arena too. Lorne Lanning. Now, at the beginning, he did not have great things to say about the indie development platform for Xbox, and when he was working on the, bringing out, oh man, now I'm blanking.
One of the Abes, or
yeah, the Oddworld.
Yep.
So he was not bringing it out to the Xbox, yada yada. That turned around, and it turned around kind of quickly, in my opinion. All of a sudden, he's like, "Yeah, everything's great now, and now I really want to bring the game out to the platform." And we've seen some of those games that have started out on other platforms, whether it's Octodad, whether it's the Oddworld, whether it's there's 3 or 4 more of them that started out there that all of a sudden have begun to make their way over to the Xbox program. So I guess that might be, maybe that's where I was going with it, was, that kind of corner that you turned, where all of a sudden you're starting to get those games back that you lost at the beginning, and getting games that are right now, at least in some way, shape, or form, exclusive to the platform, whether it's Thimbleweed Park, whether it was, I know Elite Dangerous is coming to the PlayStation platform, but you've had it for, God, a year or two now, and Juan could speak to
Enough
Elite.
for me to have like 1,000 hours in it. So
Yeah. So I mean, these are things that are happening on the platform, and maybe that's where I was asking.
Yeah.
Do you feel there was a time when you felt that was sort of turning in your favor?
Yeah, no, I can't say that there was. Like, it's not something we ever thought about. But I'm glad you guys are seeing it, and I'm glad you guys are see that that's happening. And I think for us, like, it's the one really nice thing about the program or working with independent developers is, like, independent developers aren't shy to tell you, when you're screwing up, or when you could be doing something better, or what you should be doing differently. And so we get a lot of that, and when we take that feedback to heart and really try and change things. And it's not a situation where we could say, like, hey guys, we just launched this program, you should all come to Xbox now. Like, we needed to demonstrate that we were, putting our money where our mouth is and actually really making a program that was the right thing for developers, or that developers wanna to see. And so when that stuff happens, it feels really good. And we get along with a lot of these developers, even some developers who would maybe be saying things on Twitter like they weren't happy. That's totally fine. That's a fair thing for them to say. But when you talk to them in person, you're having like a collegial conversation, and then one thing you can do in real life versus Twitter is hear a lot more than 140 characters about what's going on. And so I think Twitter sometimes has a little bit of an amplification effect, both positive and negative, and there's probably, like, maybe less drama in the real world than Twitter. But look, bottom line is we are always trying to do the right thing for developers. We're always trying to make things better for developers, and that's just kind of like, that is literally our North Star in the program. Like, it's just like every decision can kind of be made on the factor of, like, hey, does this make life easier for developers? Like, is this new form going to actually, okay, it takes like 15 minutes to fill out this form, but it's going to save you like 6 hours versus the old way. Okay, that's a great new form. Like, let's get that going. Or we do a lot of documentation, creation and things like that, just to, like, make it straightforward for developers to get through CERT, get onto Xbox, and getting into Project Scorpio. And so, like, that's always our North Star. And it does feel great when I see a developer say, like, oh, I'm having a good time working with Xbox or something like that. I mean, it just, that does, I mean, that is what kind of gets us up in the morning, is like that kind of reaction for developers.
Nice.
And that's great news for us.
Yeah. That's
that
the
brings
whole
us
goal.
to titles,
Like,
right?
Yeah, if we just make it easy for developers to get their games out on Xbox, then they're and their games are doing well, then we're gonna get like a ton more games on Xbox.
The question I had coming into this was for you, Mr. Charla. There was Game Pass coming up. Are you guys looking to tie it in heavy with the Game Pass with the ID at Xbox titles?
Excuse me. Yeah, there's going to be some ID games in Game Pass for sure.
Because I think that is a great way for someone who is. I mean, I'm the kind of guy I have bought way too much since digital became a thing. It's just too easy for me to buy all the games. But thank you. For the people who haven't or are maybe new to the ecosystem, I think the Game Pass is going to be a sweet idea to get them kind of up to speed on what's on there. And I think it'd be just my thought was it'd be a great place for those titles to show up.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Game Pass is going to be really, really cool. I know that, I just think that it's got a cool value proposition. I think it's going to be good for players and good for developers and good for the ecosystem. And there will be ID games who are part of it.
Well, since you talk to the bosses occasionally too, could you tell them that we need to have game gifting?
I will absolutely pass that on.
I think that's what's been on Reddit a million times, Twitter about 100 billion times. I think they know.
Literally writing.
Yeah,
I think they know.
That's
I think it's on a sticky note and it's on a computer somewhere.
I had
Right, and his boss is gonna go, I've never heard that one before.
Right.
Yeah.
Hey,
Exactly.
Well, these guys that I do the show with, they know the story, and of me buying Shantae, another awesome ID title. I love that game to death, and then wanting to buy it for 4 friends, couldn't do it on the Xbox because I could gift them the card or whatever, but that's not the same as, because then it's not, here's this game, play it.
Yep.
So I had to do it on Steam, and I want to do it on Xbox, so that's why that's a keystone item for me.
Yeah, no, I think it's great feedback. I really will. I will send an email like tomorrow and tell them that you guys were talking about it.
Awesome.
That makes me happy.
No, but, Game Pass. Let me give you. I'll give you the other reason that can be a great thing. One of the reasons that I'm very much into stuff like the EA Access and stuff like that. I don't have that kind of money. I don't. I've got 3 children upstairs. I don't have the disposable income I had when I was 25 years old, and so I can't buy every indie game there is out there, even if I want to. So something like a Game Pass, where some of those games can be there for me to play on a subscription basis like that, I'm way all for. And those are the things that how has the reception to the idea been with indie developers?
It's been really positive. Yeah, for sure.
I mean, and so they're ready to go on board.
Yeah, there are going to be some ID developers who are going to be part of Game Pass.
Nice.
It's good news.
Nice.
Definitely good news.
One of our other the guy who usually is in the spot you're in, he couldn't be in with us tonight, Frankie, but he's in our chat room. He wanted to know about the game preview program, and if you think that has been a success, or if you guys are kind of evaluating what feedback comes out from games being out that early. I mean, we've had Ark, which obviously has been very successful, but We Happy Few, The Long Dark, and some others. What's been the feedback from gamers and the developers on game preview?
Yeah, I mean, game preview is a perfect example of something that came out of, hey, despite the fact that I did not pay attention to the news this week, generally speaking, we're looking at what's happening in the industry. Obviously we're all well aware of early access and everything like that. Of course, like obviously Minecraft is probably the most famous early access game in a lot of ways. And it was something that developers told us they really wanted on console. We wanted to make sure that if we did bring it to console, that we did it in the right way, and we put some important consumer protection elements in there, and that every game in Xbox Game Preview has a trial, so that players, first of all, it's got a lot of text caveats, explaining that the game isn't finished, and we're hoping for your input, but you never know what's going to happen with game development, and then it has a trial, so you can actually try it and decide, like, hey, is this game for me right now, or is this something where I want to wait a little bit longer, or maybe wait till it's 1.0. And I think because we've had really good games in the program, and because of some of the programmatic things we've done to make sure consumers are protected, it's been super successful for players and for developers on Xbox One. And I would say, like, the program's been a big success. It's not limited to ID games by any stretch of the imagination, but most of the developers who've taken advantage of it, and maybe all to date, have been ID developers, and it's been great. And I think, like, it speaks to the more just open nature of game development today, where you do want to hear from the community, and you do want to hear, like, hey, let me just put this build out, see what people think. I changed this, or we changed this. Like, what do you guys think? Like, give us your feedback. And, active players and committed members of the community can really have an impact on the game's development because of things like Xbox Game Preview.
Right.
Yeah, I've used No Man's Sky as a case in point for that, because that's a game I think would have benefited largely from a program like the Game Preview program. Being that with that, the expectations for it would have been managed. The developers would have gotten obviously needed feedback. I think that would have been a kind of a great fit if that kind of thing existed for them at the time.
Yeah, that's an interesting thing to think about. Actually, I never even considered that.
Yeah, because I'm not to dog on the game, but it didn't. There were expectations, I think, that didn't get met, and I think the developer Sean Murray, he had written about how hard it is to say no sometimes. Is this going to mean it? And do you say no before the game is out and turn off somebody or whatever? Whereas with the game preview program, I've been in touch with the people at Ark, because I loved Ark too. I've got a bunch of hours in Ark and Elite Dangerous, so I've been in touch with them and given feedback, and I think that was something that would have benefited No Man's Sky, or just kind of the counterpoint to.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's not for every game. Like, I think, really story-based games and everything like that. But yeah, I think that feedback, and I know that when I was a developer, and actually something I see now with developers when they're at PAX or whatever, when you're showing off your game, it's not just to say like, hey, look at my game, you should buy it when it comes out. It's really about like, okay, I've been playing this game so long that like I can no longer tell you what's good or what's bad. My friends are playing this game and they're all telling me it's great, but they're my friends. And like now, like let's see what players actually see. And so if you go to PAX or a show like that, you see developers like half the time they've got a clipboard or they've got a notebook and they're just like furiously scribbling down notes and like really paying attention to like where people are dying or where they're stuck, because it's like the greatest focus group. And I think that's what the one of the real benefits of game preview is that you get to for me as a player, I think it's fun to just play the game before it's finished, and then and to get to offer my opinions. But I think for developers, just getting to see like how people are playing or looking at metrics and like what people are doing, and it helps where to focus.
Oh, plus they get some income, right, during development.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
So kind of keeps the lights on so they can finish their game.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah, that's something that was a kind of a point of a contention actually here on our show about Ark, I'd say, because there was the deal with the Scorched Earth and the DLC for a game that hadn't been out of preview yet. Myself, I was all for it because I had played enough Ark. I really felt like Wildcard did an awesome job supporting the game, and I had already gotten enough value out of it that I had no problem paying for more. But there was a bit of a controversy over that.
Yeah, I know there was some. So I'm with you. Like I have punched a lot of trees in Ark, put it that way, and I felt like I also feel like I was getting more dinosaurs and more stuff, and and so I feel like that expansion was had a pretty clear value proposition that I totally was down with. But yeah, I know they got a little bit of feedback, so. That's part of it. And now there's a data point out there of like, hey, what happens if you do paid content in preview? Like, how do people react? And is that manageable, or should maybe we think twice about doing it? And it's all good for everybody ultimately.
Absolutely.
Another question I've got is with the advent of self-serve refunds coming to Xbox, the preview members have done it. I've actually done it on a game that didn't function for me. It was what was that? The JRPG type game, Shyness? I had problems. It just wouldn't have any audio after the title screen. So I, said, well, this is a good opportunity to use that preview trial to see if that works, and I did a refund on that. But with that being the case, how does that? Would that be any incentive for there to be more demos for the smaller titles on the store, the ID type titles?
Yeah, I don't know. We definitely, on Xbox 360, we made sure that every game had a trial. Like it had to have a trial. Like that was actually a requirement. And then, we felt like the industry had changed and consumers were pretty sophisticated. And so we didn't have that requirement on Xbox One. Although obviously a developer can put in a trial and they can also make a demo. There's a slight difference between a trial and a demo. A trial, you're downloading the final game and you can play a certain amount of it. And then it sort of, like it's usually time-based. And then a demo is a separate executable, so you'd have to download the main game if you decided you wanted to. But you can bring the demo out before the game ships and stuff like that. I actually think that, like a lot of things in games, and especially when you start to talk about selling games, there's a lot of opinions on both sides of the issue. But I really think that, a good trial and a good demo can really help sell games, and because it enables you as a player to take a risk on something you might not have tried otherwise. And then if it's like it's okay, like okay, that's fine. You didn't lose anything, and the developer didn't really lose anything. But if you play it and you're like, oh wow, like this is. Wait, what happens next? Wait, I just got to that boss, and now what? Like, okay,
Time's
everybody
up.
Wins.
Right.
That's what I have at Ark. It's like, after an hour or whatever, it's time's up. It's like,
punched a couple of trees and time is up.
Some more trees.
Well, actually, one of my favorite bits of EA Access is the trial things on EA Access. Because, for example, I'd like the Dragon Age series, but the Dragon Age Inquisition game, I wasn't really feeling it that much. So on my trial, I tried it out, decided that I didn't need to put down the 60 on it, and I waited for the vault, for it to come to the vault, and it worked out nice. And I put my money into some other game, and so I think I'm a big proponent of the whole trial or demo. I kind of miss old school demos that were their own complete thing, but.
Yeah, they do. They take time to make. Is the problem. So that's why, especially a lot of smaller developers, if you've got a team of 1 or 2 or 3, it's hard to. It's sometimes hard to make that investment. And which obviously I totally understand. But I do think like they're cool. Like, and I think you can do some kind of fun stuff with them.
Yeah, and I can absolutely see the not wanting to exclude anybody by requiring them. I mean, that makes perfect sense.
Well, and people that watch the show and know me know how I feel about the open beta kind of thing. With that being kind of, to me, that's a demo more than anything else when you're that close to the release of a game. Obviously there are some exceptions. Halo 5 had what I consider a real beta. It was a year and a half out. And of course, we kind of know why they needed to do that, but it works. Those can also work and in and out of the favor of the developer as well. And I think one game that sold me on it from its open beta, or closed beta rather, that I got into was Pit People. That came out of nowhere for me, and whoever was voice acting that game needs a medal, because that is some of the greatest dialogue I have played in a long time. It was really fun.
Yeah, that game is just amazing. It's so cool. I'm spacing on the announcers or the narrator's name right now. But it's that game is awesome. For me, it goes all the way back to, I don't know if you guys remember this, in the 360 era, the game Lost Planet.
Mm-hmm.
They had an E3 demo, and then they just released the E3 demo on the 360, and I think it was like the first game that had ever done that, where they just like straight up were like, oh yeah, we have this E3 demo, we put it through cert, here you go, download it. And they actually learned a lot. They made some big changes, and I forget, I think like maybe some of the control scheme stuff, like the default control scheme that was in the demo, everybody switched to something different, and then they made that the default control scheme in the final game. So it can really it can make a difference, and I think that if you've got a good game and you believe in your game and you have the time and you have the resources, it can really help.
Absolutely.
Yep.
And so I do have we have a lot of great people. I don't know if you've been watching the chat room on the left. We do have some great people that get in there, and in amongst their conversations, they're trying to throw a question or two out that I'm filtering the good ones. But there was one, earlier I was talking about games that weren't on the platform that are coming to the platform, but there are still some that I'm sure you would love to have. Are there some that you guys are still working on that, and I guess I can throw the names out there and you can just kind of, nod or whatever.
Blink twice for no.
Blink twice for no. Blink twice, right? Blink 3 times for help. Let me get off this podcast. So Double Fine. Double Fine's kind of a weird. They give you some stuff, but let's be honest, their bread and butter right now are trying to remaster the old LucasArts games. The 360 has Monkey Island, but the Xbox One is missing Grim Fandango and Full Throttle. So are those games like that, games like Transistor, Super Rude Bear, that you're trying to still bring to the platform, or are those kind of lost causes at the moment?
No, I mean, I can't talk about any game specifically. I can't even. Now I'm just going to carefully not blink during the rest of the I really can't talk about any game specifically. But if a developer wants to bring the game to Xbox One, we want to help them do it. And and of course, there's games where the game's not on Xbox One, where we are strongly encouraging the developer, to, hey, please bring the game to Xbox One. And so you can imagine those kind of discussions go on, all the time. I will say we've got a great relationship with Double Fine. We've got a great relationship with the Supergiant guys.
Well, it's not like they haven't brought other games. That's the thing that's kind of weird about it is, if Double Fine hadn't brought anything, that would be one thing. But they do. It's just it's kind of weird what is and isn't coming at the moment. So
was it them who brought Massive Chalice?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, that was good.
It was
yeah,
good.
Master Chalice is awesome.
No. And are there any? Good.
I was going to say I tried to wear a Massive Chalice shirt on one year when I spoke at E3. I wanted to wear a Massive Chalice shirt on stage, but it was too orange to wear.
What's that like, by the way? I've seen, I've been to E3. I've watched people obviously. What is it? What was it like on the other side, staring out at like a whole room full of fans with the green lights going off and stuff like that? What's that like?
It's really scary, but it's also awesome because you just get excited. Like they have, the thing you realize is at the end of the day, like you're telling people about something that they're hopefully going to be excited about. I'm excited about it, so it's not too hard to just like get out there and be like, "This awesome game is going to be awesome. Look at this awesome game." It's really fun. For me, it's fascinating. The couple of years I did it was just fascinating seeing like how those productions work, just being backstage and seeing like all the computers that were there and all like the amazing like live event production people and I think like the folks have been able to get in a fan fest or anything like that. The energy in the room during the E3 briefing is just like nothing else. Like it's just like crackling. I mean, it's really amazing. And it's fun it was fun to get to be a part of that, and it's great to get to showcase the games. And I guess like I don't know if I've ever said this before, but if somebody ever asked me like what's your like perfect moment from ID so far, it might be the when we had the 4 different developers come out on stage, and we had the Moldenhauers come out to talk about Cuphead, and I was on the lower level and they were on this like upper level, and just kind of like looking back and up at those guys, it's just watching them talk and then just seeing that Studio MDHR logo like on screen, which is first of all it's a gorgeous logo, and just knowing like how much work they had put into it and where they came from, and the fact that they'd never made a game before, and here they were on stage at E3, and it's not like they'd never made a game before and they're on stage at E3 and nobody in the audience cares. It's like they never made a game before, they're on stage at E3, I'm looking at them, they are so excited, I'm so excited for them, their game showing, and like everybody watching that game is just like flipping out about how awesome it is. And that was like a moment where I would say I wasn't, I will just cherish that moment forever. Like that was like, it was unbelievable.
That's pretty sweet.
Yeah, that's got to be right now one of 2 or 3 of the most anticipated indie games of the year for this year. I mean, so much has been talked about with that game, and this is one of those times, one of those games where I think having a program like this to get behind it, if I remember, and if my memory serves, the reason that we're this far out is because they've actually taken a game that really was originally just going to be a boss battle, boss rush, and you guys brought them in, gave them, and have helped them to kind of build this into now a full-on big ass game. And
yeah, they've spent, I mean, those guys, I know, like, hey, they've been working really hard. They're doing super cool stuff, and they're like, I can't wait to play the game. And I just know, like, those guys, they are tireless, and the way they're making that game, there has literally never been another game made like this. They are, hand animating every frame. Everything they do is done, is true to his, the way animation was created in the 20s as possible. Like they had an actual sign painter, like do all their lettering. So it's not a font. I mean, maybe they made it into a font, but it was like hand painted by a guy. They use like a real orchestra to do the soundtrack, even down to their merch. Like they had, I don't know if they're still up there, but they were selling these screen printed posters for a while, and they would not do like dye sublimation prints or like inkjet prints. Like they had to be like silk screen prints, because that's like how you made posters in the 20s and the 30s. And they like it's so they're such cool guys too. Like they're just awesome people. That whole team.
It's my mission. It's my mission to get one for the wall.
Yeah, they're cool.
Wow.
I wish I could remember. Maybe I'll try and look up the site, because they're really, really awesome. Like, I would like to actually give those guys a plug for that. That merch that they're putting together is really awesome.
It just seems, when I look at that game, I just think that they're painstaking. They're craftsmen.
Yeah, that's exactly it. So it is the Yeti, which is TheYetee.com/Cuphead, and you can see some of the merch they have up there. A really amazing pin set, and then some just really cool posters, and T-shirts and stuff. So definitely worth checking out.
I might have to pick one of those up. So that's awesome.
Yeah, it's cool stuff.
No, they have. I mean, are they still? I know you can't give us that much more because I asked at the beginning and we laughed about it, but they are still on track to announce at least a release date at E3. That's what they've said in the past.
Oh, I know they're coming out this year. That's what they said in the last time they communicated publicly with the world. So I will just say that and nothing else.
Which is fine. I mean, that's such a double-edged sword. It can in one sense, you kind of want to know. And it's hard when you're not hearing much about it. On the other hand, when I used to deal with folks like id Software and stuff like that, and I never forget those guys. I would talk to them and say, all right, so when's Doom 3 coming out for the Xbox? And what's his name? Matt would look at me dead in the eyes and say, when it's ready. So that's what we had. That's all we had to go on. But you know what? I think that's the best strategy.
Yeah, and like you want. I mean, I know as a player, like, hey, I want to play this game, or any game that's that's coming out not for a while, and you want to play it, but at the same time, you want it to be the creator's actual vision. You don't want to be something that was rushed. And so when it's frustrating when a game that you want to play isn't out and you can't play it. But I'd rather have a game be out when the creator wants it to come out than necessarily when I want it to come out, because they're the ones who are making the game. So I try not to stress about that stuff too much.
Now, going from games that are going to be released sometime soon to things that have already come out, what is your favorite game, like out of the 500, that you love playing every day or almost every day?
I'm not going to answer that question. I like all games equally. No, I can't really answer that question. I will say, I think I talked about it a little earlier. I've been playing a lot of Crawl this weekend. I finally got a chance to start playing that Saturday morning, and so much fun. And it's just a really cool kind of competitive local multiplayer game, but really you're just having fun more than it's because it's asynchronous multiplayer. One person's going through the dungeon, and if you're not the human, then you're a ghost, and you can like possess furniture and throw it at the player, and you can get in traps, and you choose when to launch the trap, and you can even control the boss's arms and stuff. And what you're trying to do is kill the player, and as soon as you kill them, then you're it. You become the player, and you can get some of their XP and stuff. And ultimately, you're trying to be the human who kills the boss. And it's probably like 25-minute session, I would say, and so much fun.
Nice.
Sounds like a good time. That's one I'm about to look into.
Yeah, it's really good.
The last one I got from ID was Voodoo Vince. Went through that. That's great. I had missed it the first time around when I had owned an Xbox. I was stuck on something like Bunch's Odyssey or something back in the day, and so that was great to play through that. Man, it got tougher it got tough towards the end.
Yeah.
Nope.
And
that's it. That was really his last. That was really his last question, and he's gone. This happens once in a while. His potato internet, and it'll be back. We've gotten used to it by now. So
But yeah, Vince is a cool game. It's super neat to see that come out, and that's cool.
Yeah, and those are games we'd like to see more of. At least come through the program, even if even if we got to take Phil kicking and screaming into it. Microsoft has so many IPs. I mean, I've talked about this before that just between the six of us and the people on the internet, that they're sitting on it that I would love to see come back, and I'm hoping that maybe we can get some of the pull in. I guess, and this kind of goes towards a question that somebody had asked in the chat room: are there any development companies that are looking to maybe get started and be part of the ID at Xbox program as their very first thing, like a Studio MDHR, things like that? Here he comes. But could we see, and maybe we just have to tell Phil, I would love to see another Mech Assault. I know Juan would love to see another Mech Assault. We're in the middle of putting up a retro walkthrough on our channel.
Oh, nice.
Of him doing a walkthrough of Mech Assault, and I still have from my old Next Level Gaming days. I still have E3 footage and review footage of Lone Wolf, and there's games that those are games that I would love to see come back, and I would think that a Voodoo Vince style set, like a smaller developer could handle a game like that, bring it through the ID at Xbox program.
Yeah, I mean those are like Microsoft owned IPs, so those would typically go through. I think Voodoo Vince is a special case. Those would typically go through Microsoft Studios. But I mean, this is a case where, like, first of all, like that there's nobody more passionate about like Microsoft Studios and the games we've done than Phil, obviously, and Shannon and everybody over there. And so this is a good place for Xbox user voice to say what you want. And I can't comment on any game specifically, but yeah.
I know.
I do want to talk about Mech Assault for a second. Though,
yes.
Like, that was one of the first Xbox Live enabled games.
Yes, it was.
Like, and man, the community on Mech Assault was like the most. Like, I don't play a ton of online or multiplayer games. Like, I am more like a single player gamer. But I'll come in for big things.
You and me both, brother. You and me both.
Yeah, just my style. The community on Mech Assault was like so positive. I met people on Mech Assault that were just like super cool. I just love that game. I was one of the best ones.
See, now you got to start watching us a little more regularly, because this was actually, I'm going to play it while we're talking. This was what Juan does for us every week is a retro recommendation, and so he'll pull something from the Genesis or the Super Nintendo or the Xbox, and it'll just be like a segment on our show. And last week's 2 weeks ago was Mech Assault, and I mean, you and I are in that same boat, Chris. I am a single player guy. I'll play Halo, I'll play Overwatch, or I'll do that for I'll play Ghost Recon Wildlands with these guys and Forza Horizon 3 and stuff like that. But I can get lost in a single player game if it's that good.
Yeah.
Mech Assault was, to me, the best of both worlds. It had some great campaign work, but then you're right. I could go on and I could spend hours playing online with people, and it was one of those special games.
Yeah, and
Crimson Skies too.
Yeah. It's always good when you find, like I said, I don't play a ton of multiplayer games, but like when you find one that's got that great community, like, to me that's what really makes it stick. And Mech Assault was awesome. I actually mentioned it earlier, but like Lost Planet, the community, I'm still like friends on Xbox Live with people I met playing Lost Planet. I don't know what it is, this maybe it was mechs, but like there's something about, you find that game and you see the people playing it and it just clicks and it's just like you're, friends immediately. So it's kind of, I love when that happens. And it doesn't always happen. It doesn't happen a ton for me just because I don't play a lot multiplayer.
Well, to be honest with you, this is how the other four gentlemen on the podcast are. I mean, this is how I met them is really through, I'm a multi-platform guy, but I met all these guys on the Xbox. I met all of them either playing or just through, we're all Xbox Live friends. We all spend at least 4 or 5 nights a week talking to each other, playing games. Even if we're not playing the same game,
Yep.
we just throw each other to party and just chat. It's one of the beauty things that Microsoft did to me in bringing Xbox Live to where everybody else now is with multiplayer and with community. I think honestly they were the outside of PC, of course, but even PC was a lot more segmented than
By game.
than Xbox Live was. Xbox Live really was the pioneers of curating all that together into one network, and I thought this is one of the things I will always thank Microsoft for, because it's why I have the people around me I do.
Yeah, I mean, Xbox Live is amazing. Like that's it's the greatest thing ever. And I see the stuff we're doing with Xbox Live in the future. This is a case where I don't know what we said publicly or not, so I'm going to be vague. But it's probably everything I'm thinking of we've announced, but I just don't know. But even stuff like Beam and everything like that, and it's just like, it's just about making life easier and better for players and for developers, and you just want to it's just about making it like a super fun place to play. Like you want to play on Xbox because that's where your friends are.
Right.
Yeah, that's me every night thinking, I just want to get on, chat with the guys. I don't care if I'm really playing anything. I'm chatting with the guys. We're having a good time. That's all that matters.
Well, I know these guys will play a PlayStation game and chat to each other at Xbox.
Yeah, I did a lot of that. I threw 2 headsets on so I could do it while I was playing Horizon. So,
question with
that's
the
awesome.
game development again. With the ID at Xbox program, do you guys ever reach out to maybe the ones that are doing like Kickstarters? Because I can think of an example that I won't put you on the spot with a game name or anything, but it is mech based that recently did a Kickstarter, and they're bringing they've had the FASA IPs like the Shadowrun, and I think that'd be a great kind of thing to bring over to Xbox. I don't know if you've seen those iOS Shadowrun games, because that's a Microsoft owned IP if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure. But yeah, like just generally speaking, so a lot of developers will talk to us. A lot of developers are, pretty familiar with the program, even if they haven't shipped a game yet. And so they'll just reach out or, apply at xbox.com/ID. But whether it's at trade shows or things like PAX or Kickstarter or just seeing a game, like that maybe it's an early access on Steam, or just, people are talking about it online or on Twitter. Like, we reach out to a ton of developers like all the time and just, talk to them about Xbox and, see if they're interested and, and see if we can answer questions. And, so we definitely look at Kickstarters, and we've definitely had games that, started as Kickstarters and have shipped on Xbox One. And, and some part of the reason for that is because of the engagement we had with them when we saw their Kickstarter. And we have somebody on the team who, is famous for, basically a game will come in and we'll be looking at, like the video or whatever and be like, oh, this one's looking good. And, he's always like, oh yeah, I backed him on Kickstarter. And so,
Right.
The silent partners.
Yeah.
Well, going back to Massive Chalice, I think was an example of one of those that was kickstarted and on Xbox too.
Yep.
Oh yeah, right. No, there are a couple things that were going on recently, like the Creators Project program, and I did have a question from the chat room. How are you guys looking to keep that from turning into? Well, he used different terms. I'll say into a challenge like Steam Greenlight.
Yeah, so I mean, it's a really good question, and it's something we thought an enormous amount about beforehand. So I want to just talk about Creators a little bit, and I will sort of talk about all the cool stuff about it, and then I'll talk about how we dealt with the challenges. So I mean, at the core of it, Creators is fantastic. Like anybody can use a retail Xbox One, download the Dev Mode Unlock app for free, turn their Xbox into a dev kit, and then they can use Visual Studio. Again, you can use like Visual Studio Community. You can use the free version of Unity, and basically. You do some network pairing, and then your PC can see the Xbox One and can deploy, builds to the Xbox One, and it's really deploying it inside the Windows 10 system space of the Xbox One. So that your PC just thinks it's deploying to a PC, and then your Xbox runs the game, and you can, test your game out with controller on your TV, so you can get that living room experience and understand, how the game plays at, 10 feet. Iterate as much as you want, and then coming up later this summer, you'll be able to sell those games. And the whole point of Creators, it is entirely a public program. So ID at Xbox is technically like a managed program. You need to be a company, you need to sign agreements with us, and there's NDAs involved and things like that. We try and be as open as possible, but it's a traditional developer program. Creators program is completely outside of that. You don't need to sign NDAs. You don't need to go through, traditional kind of concept approval. You don't need to go through a really, hardcore certification process. And it's really easy to ship your game with Xbox Live onto Windows 10 or onto Xbox One. You don't have access to the full complement of Xbox Live. It's a subset, which mostly the social features. So username, presence, leaderboards, clubs. You don't have achievements, you don't have gamer score, and you don't have multiplayer. Those are things you'd need to go through a managed program like ID to get access to. But it's just, I think it's going to be amazing. I think some professionals will use it for sure. And then we will also have, I think it will just be a great place for people who want to just like experience game development to get started, whether they're students, whether they're hobbyists, whether it's like a moonlighter, whether it's just somebody who wants to check things out. And I just think it's cool that we now kind of offer a development experience on Xbox at like every level, from, full giant professional teams to independent teams to individuals, now down to even people who are just sort of tire kicking and experimenting with game design. All that said, I think one of the things that, and I think your chat room poster kind of talked about it, was like, hey, is this gonna flood the marketplace? Is this gonna be like Greenlight, or is this gonna be is this something I need to worry about as a player? And we thought long and hard about it, and I think came up with a pretty good solution. So on Windows 10, right now all games are together, whether they have Xbox Live or whether they don't have Xbox Live. And so games that come from the Creators Program will be right there in with them, with Xbox Live Creators Program games. So all those games are together, and I think people on PC understand how to understand how that works. On Xbox One, we as players expect a curated store experience. We expect the traditional Xbox store experience. And so the solution we've come up with is that those Creators Program games will still be there on Xbox One if the creator wants to put them there, but they'll be in a special section so that people know, hey, these are Creators Program games, and you can, either, stay in the main Xbox store and have the experience you've always wanted, or get to experience all the really cool stuff that people are going to put out and check it out. And so we've worked hard to come up with a solution that kind of tries to offer people the best of both worlds. And once you're in the Creators Program section, there will be all the expected kind of programmatic curation of new releases and top games and things like that. But we want to make sure that players don't lose anything of their current Xbox experience. That the Creators Program, as for players, is really an addition, something new.
Well, sort of like, how close is it to the old XNA program?
I think it's close philosophically in some ways to the old XNA program, the XNA Creators Club. but I think it's different in an important respect, which is that Creators Club, the original XNA thing on 360, was really cool in terms of platform access with a retail kit and everything like that. But it was kind of a dead end. Those games, for example, they couldn't use Kinect, and once you shipped one of those, there wasn't really someplace you could take it. With Creators Program, you can have a game ship in Creators Program, and say it starts to get some traction, or you decide, hey, I'm going to go double down on this one, and I want to add full Xbox Live, we want to get achievements, we want to get gamer score, we want to implement multiplayer. There's nothing that stops you from coming to ID at Xbox and working with us and enabling all those features. So even though the games start with a subset of Xbox Live, there's no limit, there's no like hard wall that the game can never go farther than this. Hey, if you want to make a game that's going to be, the next big thing, and you start in Creators Program, that's totally fine, and there's nothing that's going to stop you from going as far as you can go.
Sweet.
Yeah, and I may he may be he's in the program, so maybe not. But I can think of a couple of people who have, I've brought you one or two people that I've tried to get in touch with you to, to talk about my friend Jason, who's making that Karateka looking game, one of them, and I talk a lot to Nick Macon from Making Games. He's making that really sweet Raging Justice game. Those would be great games to start out on a Creators Program, and then move into. I guess so. You could start there and then decide, hey, I really want to take this all the way and move into the ID program.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's awesome. So that I think what a lot of people are saying in the chat room is which I think you guys are looking at is you really do want to make sure that stuff doesn't curate into the main area where you've got to filter through a lot of that stuff to get there. XNA, if I remember correctly, just from my recollection, it was in a whole separate place.
It's a little it was on 360, and so you did have like
you had
all the games.
Yeah, but you had XBLA and then you had XNA, right?
Games on demand. And it's a little different now because every game is available digitally. But at the end of the day, we want to make sure that we surface cool content for people to see, but we're also cognizant of the fact that Xbox players have a certain expectation when they go to the store on Xbox.
Yeah, and I think that's gonna be a lot more. You're right, with digital now being the big, being the as big as it is, and every game is on it. That is going to be important going forward because, once that store gets that big, you want to make sure you can find what you're looking for without having to go through a ton of the I made a game pixel thing. So I totally understand. It's just I think there is some. We're going to have to see it. That's probably it's more proof is in the pudding than anything. We're going to have to see what it looks like.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. I was just poking through to see if anybody else had anything of big note. I think, a lot of good questions in there, and I think there's does that mean every creator game is UWP?
Yes, that's right. Yeah, every creator game is a UWP.
Nice. How has that been with respect to? That's what I wanted to ask about. Was Microsoft's really pushing to play anywhere, and there have been now a growing number of games that are utilizing it, and one from, of course, I wear this. I'm wearing my Beach Buggy Racing shirt today. Vector Unit's one of our big friends. We had Matt on our show about 3 or 4 months ago to talk about Riptide GP, and he was talking to us about why he had delayed the Xbox version because he wanted to add Play Anywhere to it. And so that's why the PS version came out when it did, and the Xbox version came out late because they wanted to add that. Have you guys started to see from independent developers a real desire to now get into the Play Anywhere program so that they could get you kind of that bigger bubble than just trying to put it out on Xbox and Steam?
Yeah. Actually, like a lot of the games that are going to be coming to Windows 10 as well as Xbox One. We've certainly talked about Xbox Play Anywhere. And you know what? I can't remember the number of titles off the top of my head that we've announced that feature it, but sorry, I can't remember the number, but it's a pretty good number, and I think we'll see more. And I think it's a feature that's been pretty popular with players. And so yeah, I think it's cool.
Yeah, I think if City Skylines had Play Anywhere, I would have probably bought it already. But now it doesn't, so put a little bit on the back burner. But I think it's a good feature to have. I mean, it's nice that you get a choice to play it on Xbox or on Windows 10.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the seamless nature of the save thing is very nice.
Yes, that's what that and crossplay. I think Rocket League kind of pioneered that, and it seemed to be. It was almost like Rocket League did it, and all of a sudden Microsoft said, "Well, wait a minute, we have a program for that." And so it was. Yeah. Rocket League's another one. We talk about those games that I think are kind of turning points in the program for me. I know you don't have one specific, but when I talked about Lorne Landing, I can also go back to Rocket League as a game that was so popular on PC and Sony's platform, and they brought it over. Xbox gamers are finally able to play it, and it shot up as much, probably if not more. And their user base is immense, and bringing it over to all platforms was a great thing.
Still a ton of people play that. I play that all the time still.
Still
no good at it, though.
Yeah.
Well, and they're still bringing
It's easy
features.
to play, hard to master.
No talent for that game whatsoever.
It's
yeah,
fun,
but
though.
it's still fun as it could be. It's still so
It is.
fun. No, I'm just trying to look. So, we're getting a little deep into the show, so I wanted to actually talk about you a little bit. You kind of hit all the major parts of the game industry. You started as a journalist, right? I mean, before you were a developer, and I didn't realize this until I started kind of researching a little bit. I knew that you were one of the founders of IGN. I knew that. I didn't know, and I went back and started looking at some old magazines. I didn't know you worked for Next Generation magazine.
Oh yeah, that's kind of where I got started. I worked for like a Macintosh magazine, and then I got a job at Next Gen, and it was, talk about a dream job. It was so cool to be working at the one of the two magazines in the world at the time, I guess, that really treated video games strictly as like, hey, this is like for grown-ups, and these are serious. And I feel like Next Gen at the time when I joined was like so tapped into something that now it's like air. Like it's hard to even articulate what it was, but the idea that, hey, like video games are like art, and video games are like something that like adults play, and video games are not just toys. This is like a new entertainment medium. And it's just saying those words, it's like, it's so obvious today, but 20 years ago, it wasn't as obvious. And there was, I think to people who were playing and people who were in the scene, it was obvious to us. But there was a big world out there that were like, isn't that for little kids? And so we got to have a lot of fun educating people about that, and really just celebrating games. And I got to personally interview like all my heroes, and that was really fun to work on. I also had at the time, I think, really groundbreaking and cutting edge design, just graphic design.
Yes, and I think that's what. So there were two magazines at the time that I really subscribed to. One was Next Generation, the other was Die Hard. To the point, I don't know if you remember this, but Die Hard wanted you to open up a franchise in your area. I was this close to securing funds to open up a Die Hard game store out here in Maryland. I was that close. I had a grandfather who was looking for a business plan from me, and he was actually going to help me. And then the magazine kind of went, and I was like, well, I'm glad I didn't do that. So, but Next Generation magazine had such a like where everyone else was hand drawing their uh, their covers and things like that, and Die Hard had that anime look to it. Next Generation magazine had like a computer driven, like when it like Virtua Fighter look to it, where and when you opened it up, it was like a big boy magazine. I mean, it really was. It was
we actually won a couple of awards too, like magazine awards, and it was pretty cool. And just the cover stock, especially the first 2 or 3 years, the cover stock had this beautiful like matte feeling, like it was really something you like wanted on your coffee table. Excuse me. It was really fun to work at, and that's kind of where I got my start in the industry, and it was, I was working there, but I was also a huge fan of what I was working on, so it was fun. Plus, I was young, so I had all the things that you do at work when you're young, so it was pretty cool too.
And I'll never forget, except I can't remember who was in charge of EA at the time. It wasn't Hawkins, but one of the big things I remember in that magazine was I was a Dreamcast guy, Sega guy from the Genesis up. Dreamcast was my thing. Dreamcast is actually the first journalist website I worked for, was a Dreamcast HQ. And I remember in the front of one of the magazines, it might have been John Ricciello. It might have been Ricciello. I can never pronounce his name right. It might have been him. Rigotello. It might have been him. He was explaining why EA was going to bury Sega in your magazine, and why they were going to do everything they can to destroy the Dreamcast. And you read that and you're like, wow, that's
Next Gen existed on this cusp, I think, at this point in time, like just before the internet and just after the internet really took off. And we developed a reputation for these really hard-hitting interviews, and not just hard-hitting in terms of the questions we asked, but, executives like really were not afraid to say stuff and be really honest. And it was a really interesting time. It was a cool thing to be a part of. I think by the time something like that had happened, I had left because I had I eventually went to go work on the Dreamcast magazine towards the end of my career there, and so I might have been gone already by the time that happened. But I remember some interviews that were like like the interview like made industry news. It was a neat thing to be a part of, and there's nothing. Even today, I think like Edge is obviously still amazing. Interestingly, I look at Game Informer today, and I feel like Game Informer ended up where Next Gen where we used to see ourselves going, because we would have these offsites and be like 20 something, and like all taking ourselves too seriously and be like, where do we see this magazine in 20 years kind of thing. And, we kind of had this choice that we had to make, like, well, we're going to become like a tech magazine and go like deeper and deeper into, like the technology of 3D and stuff like that, which people were really interested in at the time. Or we're going to go in a different direction and be kind of an entertainment magazine. And I remember saying like, this stuff we're doing with technology is really important. People are fascinated by it. I'm fascinated by it. We got to like cover this, but ultimately, like, we're going to become an entertainment magazine, and the place we want to be is like the Entertainment Weekly of games. And I actually feel like when I pick up Game Informer, I feel like that's the Entertainment Weekly of games. Like, I really like that magazine today is doing everything we ever wanted to do with Next Gen, and like 10 times better too. And and maybe some people are salty about Game Informer. I don't know. I love it. I love getting it every month. Like that RPG issue that just came out, like 100 best RPGs, like me and my son, or my son and I
saw
like we sat there for like 45 minutes just like flipping through it and looking at it and arguing about it. And I might be a little old school, but there's something about holding that magazine and being like, wait, did they say Destiny? What number was Destiny? And you gotta like flip pages and like, I don't even, this Destiny RPG, like, where's Dungeon Maker? And I just had so much fun with it, and I just think those guys do such a good job month in and month out, and they break big stuff, and they cover important social stories in gaming, and they have their retro section, they have fun. I love Game Informer. I just think it's I look forward to it every month.
I'm gonna have to give that a serious look then, because I've been kind of put off a little bit by much of the, what I would call like mainstream gaming media, and I'm not going to get into one of my diatribes on it, but so I'll I'm kind of envious for that, but
no, it's okay.
But no, I'll definitely have to give that a look, because what you're describing sounds like what I want.
Yeah, I really like it. So,
well, yeah, and so to go from that to sort of an online, because I started online, I never had the opportunity to work in a magazine. Everything I did was online, and you went to IGN and created IGN. It's funny, once the Dreamcast went down, I had to make a decision. What was I going to do? I was either going to stop. The really funny part about this was I was working as a piano salesman, and when you're a piano salesman, you can go 5, 6, 7, 8 days without seeing a human being. So what was I going to do? So I used to bring my Sega Saturn into the store and plug it into the monitor, and some guy out of nowhere said, "Hey, I could use some help if you seem like a really big Sega guy." We were on IRC, and he's like, "Yeah, I got this website," and so I started writing for it. And then as we went along, sorry, the chat rolled out on us here. Let me get it back in. Sega started to talk to me, and next thing you know, I've got a Dreamcast and a system disc, which I still have somewhere.
Nice.
And so when Sega started its 20-year spiral into hell, I said, well, what am I going to do? So I created Next Level Gaming. Got a bunch of guys from Dreamcast HQ to come do some writing. We started to go to E3. We started to work with... And Microsoft, it's funny because I credit Microsoft a lot for kind of helping me be where I am today, because they were a big support. And without them, none of the other, maybe none of the other third-party companies and other platform holders would have taken us seriously. And so, to kind of see, we kind of hung in there with you guys and GameSpot and stuff like that for a long time before I had kids. So, we were a UGO affiliate too, which was not, that was a help, I have to say. But, those days were really, really cool. And talk about, just real quick, how you got from there to IGN and then how you got into development.
Oh, so so I went to IGN. We had been doing like these, like Next Gen Online and stuff like that. It was like the dawn of the internet. I went to IGN to, we were trying to make professional fan sites basically and do an affiliate advertising model. Mm-hmm. And that was really fun. And then I went back to Next Gen, and then, there was some point where I was, wanting to do something different, and after a while, you talk about games for so long, you're like, I gotta put up or shut up. And I had an opportunity to go work for a small video game developer, and so I took it, and it was really fun. And I was a production manager, and which was kind of like glorified do everything. I mean, it was a kind of the company Digital Eclipse. You show up and they're like, "Oh, welcome! It's your first day. Okay, there's the spool of Cat 5. Here's a crimper. You're in this building. The server's in that building. You can walk across the roof. Get your computer working. It's you literally had to walk across a roof to get internet access and or email. And so when I started, it was 20 people, and when I left, I think we were almost at one point we were 1,000. I think when I left, we were 800 or 900. But it was really cool to just go make games at that point. And and I got, because I worked for a really small company and we did a lot of handheld, a lot of Game Boy, I got to ship a ton of games. I got this super accelerated education in video games for everything. So whether it was pitching to try and get more work, or doing level design, or using a level tool to paint a level, or most of what I did was Game Boy Color, but Game Boy Advance, but and then later consoles and everything like that.
Pocket Super NES.
Yeah.
Well, but you didn't you do? Weren't you? Was it Death Junior on PSP? Wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just
I still have that, by the way.
I think there's actually, it's like if you look over my shoulder, there's a Death Junior ad or something like behind me on the wall.
I might have to send you my my PSP case to sign.
All right, on. Yeah. So, but I just remember one time we were working on like Game Boy Color, which was still Z80, so it was like it's really understandable assembly language, but we ended up debugging it on a whiteboard, and so it was like literally like my job as a producer was to stand there and like write down what was in every register, like every step of the game, so we could try and figure this bug out. That was some fun stuff. Like that was really fun. But yeah, signing an original IP, getting a studio to go from just doing work for hire to doing original IP to working on new hardware with the PSP. It was just super, super fun.
That is cool. And so you did that all the way up to getting into the ID program, or were you bouncing around a little bit?
Yeah, in 2010, I left Foundation 9 Backbone, which is kind of what Digital Eclipse had merged into. And went to Xbox Live Arcade and worked for Microsoft Studios as the portfolio director for XBLA for Microsoft Studios. So that's kind of when I got into the platform side of things.
Nice. So you kind of had that knowledge going into the program of you knew what you were doing on your side. Now you wanted to bring all the other developers in to do it with you.
Yeah, basically.
That's cool.
And then I worked on XBLA for 3 years, and then as we're getting closer to Xbox One, switched to ID.
Gotcha.
So ID was 2014, right?
No, I'm pretty sure we announced it in August of 2013.
Like 50 devs to start, and now it's 1,400.
Well, we talked to 50 devs, more than 50 devs actually, as we were kind of like trying to figure out how the program was going to look and how we were going to run it and everything. I think today we have more than 2,000 developers who are in the program with Xbox One Dev.
Good work, amazing.
And again, right. I think that has to be that has to be something that people have to take note. Is again coming from, and you're right. It was August. It was at Gamescom was when it was announced. Phil Harrison before he rolled out. The where you were and where you are now is amazing. I have to agree with Juan. It is nothing short of amazing. And it's something that all of us here have played indie games more so now. Like I would play the occasional XNA game, the occasional XBLA game, but I mean really, last gen it was all about the big stuff. It's possible I play more indie games than AAA games. It is, I'd have to go and see what my completeds are, but it's a lot, and it's a lot more than ever. And I've gained a big respect for indie developers this generation. Seeing this stuff like I was starting out playing stuff like Schrodinger's Cat, which I thought was fantastic. I'm like, this is a game that came out of nowhere. Blues and Bullets. I'm so anxiously awaiting the third episode of that. And then being able to talk to people like Vector Unit and getting those guys to talk to us, from Hyper Awesome, the guys that made Dungeon Punks, that they came on, and we had one. From Cerulean, we had Christian on. He was, it was sad to see what happened with his game, but he got. These are guys that put their heart and soul into these games, and it's so neat to talk to them as well. But it's also really cool to finally play their games. Like when Nick's game comes out, Raging Justice, I can't wait to get my hands on it because I feel like in talking to him, and we've all been on his development stream and stuff, is like we feel like we're watching him develop the game in real time. And he's talking to us, and he's giving us information, and he's taking our feedback, and just feel like you're part of it.
Yeah.
excuse me. Yeah, it's awesome. It's like that's what's so much fun about working with independent developers. Is like there's so much excitement in what's going on, and there's so much going on that like you get to like. I don't know. I'm not making games anymore, or not making games right now, and I miss that in a lot of ways. But like the excitement I get from just talking to developers and seeing the stuff they're working on is pretty it's pretty satisfying.
Definitely.
I feel like I'm bragging, and I'm not trying to.
You should. No. You know what? Honestly,
it's a great program.
You should, because it is. It really is a great program, and it has come a long way. And I understand you guys want to keep moving forward and stuff, but where you've come from and where you are now is in the gamers' eyes, because we are still gamers and we're seeing it on this side. It's such a night and day that look at the. I mean, everybody should be looking at the games that are flashing on the screen right now.
Yeah, I was just looking at Snake Pass. Snake Pass is awesome, and the developer of that game, Sumo, was part of Foundation 9, so it's like my former coworkers are the folks who made that game, and it's super cool. And that's their first ever original game. They've been almost all work for hire their whole company history. So, and I think the game's really fun. Like once you kind of get the hang of it, like then there's just a lot of fun challenges in there.
It's on my to-do list, but I've heard nothing but positive things about that game.
Yeah, it's
same
fun.
here.
Yeah,
to Mike's point earlier about playing more of the smaller or indie type games, it's definitely been that way for me more recently, the last couple of years, because I don't know. I think part of it is just AAA moving towards a lot of open world thing, and I kind of got burned out on open world. Like a lot of people love The Witcher 3. I've got it digitally, and maybe when I'm feeling like open world again, I'll go back into it. But that setting down, I don't know. I just have a hard time going. I have Arc, I have Elite. I can only have so many games that need hundreds of hours of my time, and I don't want to be in those same games all the time. So I have Shantae, which I burned through in like 10 hours, and it was one of the best games that year.
Yeah, and I think maybe because I come from a handheld background when I was in development or whatever, I like playing lots of different games, and I'm not a completionist, so I don't beat every game I start. But I like to just try a bunch of stuff. I think Inside, maybe not the last game I beat, but Inside I would say is about as close as you can get to a perfect video game, honestly.
I put that as honorable mention on Game of the Year for me, because it was the end of Inside was the most impactful single moment of gaming of that year for me. Like it was just, I had no idea that was coming. I'm pretty, like you and Mike, I've been doing this a while. Normally I see games coming, I know where they're going to go, but Inside totally blindsided me.
Yeah. What I loved about Inside is when I started playing it, I'm playing it and I'm like, yeah, this feels like Limbo 2. And that's not an insult. Like, I loved Limbo and I'm like, yeah, this feels like Limbo 2. It feels great. And then, like, the more I started to play it, the more I was like, oh, holy cow. This is going someplace totally different than what I expected. And I played for about, like, I got to play it a little bit early before it came out, which I don't usually do. I try and not play games till they're 1.0 or until they're out, because I like that experience you get when you're playing the game and everybody else is playing the game and you're all talking about it. Inside, I had to admit, like, I got a code and I was like, I got to play this game, and it had one good thing, which was there was no spoilers, and there was also no one to help you. Like, unless you wanted to, like, write to the guys in Copenhagen and be like, I suck, what do I do here? Like, there was nobody. So, which is really fun, like, for me, like, to have that experience of, like, knowing there's no spoilers out there and knowing there's no help. But I played it for, like, 25 minutes, and then I was just like, all right, you know what, this is like, I gotta, like, come back. And then, like, I waited till, like, everybody was out of the house and, like, turned out all the lights, cranked up the volume. I actually put, like, a piece of tape over my guide button so my controller was dark. And then I just beat it in one sitting. And it was just like, when I got to the moment, which, everybody who's played the game knows what that moment is, I was like, what the heck just happened? And then so I beat it, and then then I had to play it again immediately because then, so I beat it as a player, and then I had to play it again as like what did you people do with Unity? Like, holy cow. And then I just had to almost play it forensically just to like try and understand how they made it, and just the number of places where there's like a custom animation that is only seen once in the entire game, and the chances of you seeing it is maybe like 1 in 20. They're just like everywhere. There's like one moment when you're swimming and this thing slams down and crushes you and kills you, or you get past it. And my guess is that most people, because my first time I almost got past it, and my guess is most people get past it on their first time and they're like, oh yeah, I almost died there. But like I got jammed, and so then I did it again, and I wanted to see if it was always going to kill me or whatever. I got jammed again, and like the animation was totally different, and then I was like, all right, how many different animations are there for this thing that slams down and kills you? And there were like 6, and you're not a very long character. And, there was one like got my feet, and then I'm like trying to swim up, and then, there's one where we catch your head and everything like that. And it's like, that is everywhere through that game. Just like the amount of just sort of bespoke or custom animation in there is just unbelievable. It's just like, yeah, it's that is like one of the most, like I said it to the guys. I think I emailed them after I beat it. I said, like, this is going to be a game people are talking about in 50 years, and probably a game people are talking about 100 years. And I really believe that. I think people will be talking about Inside for as long as they're talking about, quality video game design.
I can still picture
again.
Okay, yeah, I can still picture the ending, and I remember. So I did a walkthrough of it that's on our channel, and it got to the end, and I really thought that it's one of those games where the end comes,
yep,
and you don't realize it's the end. And I'm looking at the screen, and I think Peter and Jason might have been, and Juan, you might have been in the stream, at least in the chat. And all I could do was look at the screen, and I said, "Huh, that's wait, it's over." And I was just like, sometimes you can't describe the feeling that you're having.
Yeah,
that was one of those times when I just stared at the screen and just watched the credits, and I couldn't come up with something to say that would describe what I was feeling at that moment. It doesn't happen very often in gaming. Like there's games I can get emotional about at the end. There's games I could wish had not ended. That one just hit me in such a way that I haven't been able to replicate that either.
Yeah, it's and you're going so fast at the end there that when it suddenly just stops, you're like, wait, what? and like it really took. I played through that game a few times, and especially because you can pick a spot. So I think I played through the ending section just to see the animation. I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 times, and maybe 6 or 7. And it just like it is like you have to play it more than once, I think, to even start to get a feel for like what's good. There's all these cool fan theories on the internet about what the game means and what you're doing and everything like that. And I guess I kind of maybe have some of my own ideas, but like I didn't have them the first playthrough. I was just like, what just happened? And then I had to just play through a bunch of times. I will say I left it on that image for like probably like an hour and a half, just like waiting to see if something was going to happen, which it didn't.
Yeah, but now did you go back and go after the alternate ending?
I have not gotten the alternate ending.
That's the one part that I couldn't figure it, that I couldn't understand. I did do it, but it just kind of, it almost like they threw that in there as something. I'm not sure what, but if you feel like it, you can go do it. It's kind of weird.
Yeah, I feel like, and this is just my own fan theory on it, is that this is, I have no idea, but my feeling is I don't want to see the alternate ending. I just want to see I feel like I got the right ending, and I don't want to see the alternate ending.
Yeah. I actually. Yeah. I'm good. I'm with you. I'm good with you on that. That. I don't think. I think if you take away from that original ending, you're right. Now that I think of it, it does kind of take away from that. So I'm with you. Now I wish I never saw it. But I mean, still,
I've seen it thanks to the power of the internet, but I did not. I did not earn it. Let's put it that way.
No,
well, if you view it along the lines of like you'd have like bonus content on a Blu-ray disc or a DVD. That's how I view it. I view it as the non-canon bonus content alternate ending.
Yeah.
No, I think that's a good way to think of it.
Yeah, it did help me. I mean, that's one of the few games that I 1000'd, and it's I felt like I wanted to. I don't know why. There's very few games I feel like that. Like I felt like I had to platinum Horizon Zero Dawn. I had to 1000 that game, and I so it. You're right. I think it does. I think I like the way Juan put it. So, guys, is there? I mean, I want to make sure that Peter and Nathan, jump in here. Is there anything?
Well, I mean, we all had all questions ready, and then he answered mine without me even asking him.
At
the very beginning,
that's
I was
how
like,
good he is.
What's it like to work with other people and the up and comers? And you're just like, boom, it's like a movie. There's indie movies, and I'm like, he just read my mind. This is pretty awesome.
That's why he's in charge.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
No. I mean, do you get it? I mean, do you get a chance to? I mean, you say you don't play a lot of multiplayer, I mean, do you get a chance to at least get some recreational gaming in from time to time?
Yeah, for sure. Like I played a little bit of Overwatch, and I played a little bit For Honor. Like I kind of want to go back to For Honor because I really liked just sort of the melee sword fighting and everything like that. So
but which faction did you play?
I think I was a samurai.
You dead to me.
Sorry.
Yeah, do yourself a favor. If you see him in the lobby, don't play him. He has crazy. I've never seen teabagging done in For Honor, but he figured out how to do it. So he likes to Sparta everybody too.
I'm the cheat to win. I'm cliffside. I got no compunctions.
Oh yeah. I love it, and I actually think that game has. I've had a lot of fun playing online in there, and normally I don't play online, and it's just fun.
Guys. Didn't I say it's so funny because you're speaking like I'm sending you vibes. I had avoided multiplayer for a good long bit, and I wasn't planning on really getting back into it until Sea of Thieves. I love the multi-crewed ship concept, but I got For Honor, and you guys will tell you I vegged on it for the multiplayer for just ever. I thought the kind of mix of Street Fighter and Dark Souls is just so sublime.
Yeah, I loved it, and I was a big Bushido Blade fan back during the day. And,
oh my god!
And so,
how old are we, Chris?
Just anything with swords in it, I'm gonna play.
Tenchu was a great series for me in that regard.
Yep.
How it is I can't seem to get myself into a game like Neo, I don't know, because those are another great and you can see it on our channel. Juan went through Ninja Gaiden. Ninja Gaiden Black.
Ninja Gaiden Black.
And
nice.
Those were, that Ninja Gaiden 2, those were hot games for me. I'm with you. Anything with a sword ninja game, that kind of thing. I was always into
Dark Souls.
Well, I'm gonna run that over with my car. But
he loves Dark Souls.
I was the guy bringing the flail to the sword fight, though. I like the.
That's awesome.
I just love the meaty thud of the flail.
But give me and again, so this is where. Obviously, this wasn't an ID game, but Capcom brought Strider back. Somebody could make a Shinobi clone, and I would be very happy with it. I would be very happy.
Well, I mean, it's a Sega game, right? Can't Sega make a?
Good luck.
I don't know if they've done a Shinobi since was there Shin Shinobi Den on the Saturn? And I don't know
Yes.
if there's
What
been
was
another
called? Well, so I've got the U.S. version, which is called Shinobi Legends.
Oh, okay.
It was a great game, but that's the last one that I remember them doing. And what I'm saying is somebody could do a game like it, because the odds of Sega right now, I think they're concentrating more on Sonic, which is fine. Love Sonic, but
Sonic Mania does look pretty good.
it does. I'm very
Oh,
much
I've got that
looking
pre-ordered.
Yep.
I'm looking forward to Sonic
The
Mania.
new one. I pre-ordered the mega bundle that comes with all the stuff.
Oh, nice.
Nice.
Yeah.
I'm very excited about that.
Yeah, that looks great.
And by the way, how's it? It's funny. We're seeing games like Deformers come on the screen. It's interesting to see some of those developers that have come off of big games making smaller games. These are developers like Insomniac, with Song of the Deep, Ready at Dawn making Deformers. And that kind of went to one of my earlier questions about the attrition and contraction going on in the AAA market. Obviously, Ready at Dawn had just come off of a AAA game. It didn't do as great as they would hoped it would have done. So instead of trying to kill themselves on another game, it looks like they kind of went an indie route.
Yeah, or just I think it's I think like as a developer, you want to make games, right? And you want to make, well, this may just be me, like you kind of want to make a lot of games and make as many games as you can. And so, the nice thing about like smaller games is you can make them faster, and so you can get more games out there. And I think it's for a studio that has typically worked on 3 or 5 year cycles, to do a game that is like a year cycle or 18 months or 6 months, it can be really like refreshing and rewarding. And it's also good if you've got a lot of new people on your team to like get them through the shipping process. And I think you saw it with Double Fine going from they used to make these really big long games, and then they broke into smaller teams, and they release like smaller games more frequently now. And I think it's good for everybody. It's good for them, and it's good for us as players, because you don't have to wait to play a Double Fine game. I get like some Double Fine love every pretty regularly. And so I think we'll I don't know, will we see more of it? I mean, maybe, and I don't think like it's not always like an either or thing. I don't think you you pick a clan, either indie or AAA, and then you can't do the other one. It's game to game, and I think we'll see developers probably be more flexible in terms of what they do just going forward.
And then hopefully we'll see some more of the smaller developers also. So you'd mentioned earlier, a game like Mechasolid having to be taken on by Microsoft Game Studios, but that does remind me of a game that most people would consider an indie style game. I think you know where I'm headed, Ori and the Blind Forest, which obviously was not an ID at Xbox because it was a Microsoft IP, but the developer, Moon Studios, is not a AAA developer. They're a small indie developer themselves. Are there some that are hoping to get into that over the ID program, or maybe looking at the ID program to get themselves seen by Microsoft to do a bigger game?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I'm trying to think of what I should say here. There's lots of meetings where a developer comes to meet with people at Microsoft, and they meet with people from ID, and they meet people from first party, and usually we're in the same meeting together. There's not some kind of like rivalry or something internally. Like we all want to get cool games made, and so we're always happy to introduce. If a developer is curious about the potential of working with Microsoft Studios as a publisher, and they ask for an intro, like absolutely, like we're totally happy to do it. I mean, that crew over there, like Shannon and everybody, is like they're awesome, and so we're absolutely happy to do that.
Nice,
and it happens all the time, honestly.
Nice. All right. One more thing. I know we're getting we've crossed the 2 hour mark, which actually I'm so honored and thrilled that you are spending this time with us. I really am. This has been an absolutely wonderful conversation with you.
I'm afraid to go upstairs because it's Mother's Day and I was supposed to make dinner. And
see, I already took care of it. See, over here, it's 11 o'clock here. I took care of that beforehand.
Well, it's 8 o'clock here.
Okay, so we won't.
Hungry mom upstairs.
All right, we are not going to keep you much longer. So
Don't
you are also, by the way, if people don't, people that don't know you on Twitter, you are an avid skateboarder still at your wonderfully young age.
Yeah, I would say I'm enthusiastic. Not good.
Yeah, but you hit the parks and everything. Come on, you got to get some looks from the kids.
Well, no, I don't. Well, I don't, and for two reasons. One is, so I normally when I go to the skate park, I go at like between 6 and 7 in the morning, and that is like Adult Swim. Like the only people at the skate park at 7 in the morning or 6 in the morning are like old guys.
Seriously?
Honestly. And so it's a same, typically, same, folks you see every morning out there, and then skateboarding's changed a lot. Like, so if you show up at a park and you're old, it's like whatever. As long as you get out of the way when you bail on in the bowl or in the transition area or something, I think like people are fine with it. And I also it's skateboarding is such an individual sport, and it's all about your progress and you trying to do things that one benefit of being old probably is I don't stress a lot about what other people at the park are saying about me, because I assume they're saying, oh, look at that old guy, but I don't care.
As long as you enjoy it. I have to tell you, as you give me hope, because I haven't been a skateboarder since I was like 16.
You should get a skateboard.
Come on! I just started playing hockey a few years ago.
I may have to butter you up for one of those ID at Xbox decks. Those are badass, by the way. They're great.
Really good decks. Like we actually got the hookup from the Behemoth, and the Behemoth. If you know anything about those guys, the folks who make Pit People and everything like that. First of all, unbelievable studio, and then just amazing people, and they epitomize the DIY ethic more than any human beings I've ever met before in my entire life. Everything they do themselves. So their booth, they design it, they build it. I think they drive it themselves. They do everything, and so when they make merch, it's going to be the best merch because like they have huge pride in everything they do. So I bought a Behemoth skateboard and a few PAXs ago, and then it was a great, and so I skateboarded on it, and because maybe I was supposed to put it on my wall, but like it's and so I skateboarded on it, and it's a really nice deck. And so then I just asked John Baez, who's the boss over there, like, hey, where'd you get the deck? And he was like, oh, we got it from these guys, like they're the best. And like, all right, if the Behemoth gives you like a tip on like somebody to use for some merchandise, they're like 100% legit. And actually, so the folks we use to make the ID at Xbox skateboards actually produce boards for a lot of like either skate shops have their shop decks or like little boutique skateboard companies, and the it's a no joke 7-ply cold press Canadian maple deck that is, the first year was too steep of a concave, but now that we have the mellow concave, it's like my favorite deck to like push around a parking lot, and it's really fun.
Nice.
Good
stuff.
You should start skateboarding again. Like it's good. It's good to like learn things when you're in your middle age or whatever. Like it helps. I think it helps just keep you sharp.
It's time for me to do something.
Yep.
I gotta stick with the auto racing. I can't fall out of my car, so I'm all good that way.
What kind of car racing do you do?
Have you ever seen the Sports Car Club of America puts on a thing called Autocross or Solo 2?
Yeah.
Parking lot cones.
Yep.
Big airport. Total blast.
That seems awesome.
He's going. It's a Lambo next month, isn't it? That you're driving?
Yeah. Next. I turned 40 couple days back, and my folks got together and they bought me one of those driving experiences, 3 autocross runs, and either I get to choose from a Ferrari 430 or a Lamborghini Gallardo.
Oh, that's awesome.
Gotta go with the Gallardo.
Yeah,
That's super cool. Happy birthday, by the way.
I appreciate it.
Wait, I have a Ferrari story. This is kind of like an awful story, but I just so I was at some event one time, and and they had like a door prize, and one of the things you could win was 3 hours with a Ferrari, and so I was like, that's cool, or maybe it was 2 hours. I don't remember. So I won this thing, and they're like, all right, you just take this Ferrari for like 2 hours and like don't wreck it, and like sweet, but they gave you the Ferrari at like 4 in Southern California, so you get on the road into traffic. So I spent 2 hours in traffic in a Ferrari.
No!
I think I went like at one point I went like 48 miles an hour. It was really spectacular.
Yeah.
That's horrible.
Yeah, those roads get crazy. I lived out there in middle late 90s with the Marines down Pendleton. And I used to make a run up to San Diego or down San Diego up to LA in those roads. So I feel your pain.
My mom lives in San Diego, and I've driven from LA to San Diego. I mean, it can be a totally sweet drive, and just don't even really think about it, and all of a sudden you're in San Diego, or it can be a drive where you're just like, well, I guess we live here now on the freeway.
Right.
Yeah. Are we there yet?
Right. Even coming in for E3, just trying to get from the airport to the closest hotel could sometimes be an entire day.
Oh yeah. I've had these experiences where you're trying to get to the E3, and you're taking a cab or something, and you physically are right next to the convention center on the freeway, and so you can just you're like, there's E3, and then you're just like,
can I just rappel down the side of the highway?
Like 20 minutes in this cab to get like 50 feet. Like,
well, and then you can't turn left ever. Like you're there, and there's no allowed left turn, so you have to do this to get to one.
Yep.
Where if you just did this, you're there, but you have to spend another 20 minutes making every right turn to get in there. It's like the old television game Snafu.
Yeah. Yeah, but it's I love E3. Like I've been to every E3, and it is like my favorite time of year. It's so cool.
What do you feel about? And this will be my last question because I do not want to keep you from your wife on Mother's Day. I have talked about the changing of E3 and how I've always said, I got one more in me. I got one more in me. I got one more in me. I'm starting to wonder if by the time that one more in me gets to a point where I can do it, if it won't be there anymore. The aspect of them bringing now the public in, are you seeing? And of course we have, third-party developers that are not doing what they used to do. There's, really there's only a handful of people doing conferences now. I think Activision actually does have a booth this year. They didn't have one last year. But you're seeing such a change in how developers and publishers are approaching E3 around the fact that you have PAX and other smaller shows. How do you see E3 as kind of trying to change with the times, and is it something that you think is still going to be around as the big show for everybody?
I hope so. I love it. I think it's really important for the industry. I think, I love shows like PAX. I haven't been to RTX, but I think I'm going to try and get there this year. Gamescom is unbelievably awesome, and that show is open to the public most of the days. And I think, to me, there's something really special about E3, specifically the fact, especially the fact that it's in LA. It's where the global entertainment media is headquartered, and being there and kind of putting our flag on the ground as an industry, I think is really special, and I love it. I mean, I love there's a lot of stuff you can complain about LA, but I love LA. Like, I love the food. I feel like there's an energy we get from E3 that you just don't get at any other show. And, I hope it's there for a really long time to come. It's going to be interesting to see what happens with the things open to consumers this year. And I hope that goes well. And frankly, if it was up to me, I would, I would do it like Gamescom, where there's, 2 business days and 2 consumer days, or 3 consumer days. Probably everyone's going to want to kill me for suggesting they extend E3, but I just think it's neat.
And I have so many great memories from E3. I mean, I've met a lot of people there, and I've had some great experiences there, and
oh yeah, and just things you can't.
Right. No, I mean, I've got some great, I will never forget the day, we got to see the behind the, it was like the end of the show. We were exhausted. My Microsoft rep rolled up to, this was in 04, 5, whichever. I'm trying to remember when Halo 2 actually, which year it actually released. But we're walking out, and the guy's like, "Hey, got a minute?" And dragged 2 of us into a room with Frankie O'Connor and a bunch of guys doing the multiplayer, the behind the scenes multiplayer, and nobody else was getting to see that. Things like that happened, for us were huge. I mean, it was, here we are, a little man-made, homegrown website, and we're being treated. And this is why I credit Microsoft to me being where I am today, is they treated us like we were real, and it was unbelievable to get those experiences.
Yeah, I mean, I think that same E3, I was walking by and I saw Peter Moore, and I had interviewed Peter Moore a bunch of times when I was at the Dreamcast magazine and Next Gen, and he was at Sega, but I hadn't seen him in years, probably 5 years at that point. And this is like testament to how awesome Peter Moore is. Peter Moore remembered me. Not only did he remember me, he was like, "Chris, what are you doing?" And I'm like, standing around E3. And he's like, "You want to play Halo?" And I was like, "No," yeah, I was like, but it was so cool. It was just like, he remembered me, he invited me in, and again, like Frank's in there, everybody, and that was amazing. And just the every E3 is different, and every E3 is special in its own way. But just there's some of the things I've seen, I used to always hang out in the back of the hall that Microsoft and Sony historically were in. I guess I don't know which one it is, but
South Hall or something like
South
that.
Hall, yeah. And then and you would always see I would you're standing there one time, and then it's all of a sudden Shigeru Miyamoto runs past you, and you're like,
yeah,
was that?
Yeah, or you're standing next to him while
Shigeru Miyamoto just run past me. Yeah. That was actually Shigeru Miyamoto. I'm, and I don't know. I'm a fan, so stuff like that happens, and it was pretty cool. And and you always see those things where you see different famous people interacting, or like that kind of thing, and then just running into your friends is super fun. And
yep.
and those years when, and it doesn't happen every year, but those years when people are like, "Did you play this? You got to go play it. Go wait in line. It's magical." Is always super fun. And I don't know. I just think it's a great kind of gathering of the tribes, and whether it's whether you're hanging out at the Fig by the pool, which doesn't exist anymore,
right.
They ruined,
yeah.
Or if you're in the JW which smells like Axe, and just having a drink. Either way, just you run into a lot of people, and it's always it's everybody from the game industry is there, and it's that happens a couple other places, but nothing's quite like E3.
No, and I agree. And you bring up Peter's an interesting guy, because I've had the same, what you describe of him is fairly universal. And you and I both have to remember the the Sega party in the industrial building of the scaffolding and all that stuff, and there's Peter Moore on top of this scaffolding like he's hanging on. It almost looks like he's hanging on. He's like, "We're gonna kick Sony's ass," and he's got this bombastic thing about him. And then you talk to him, and he's such a down to earth guy. Like the experiences you've had are mine too. Like I would go to E3, I'd be hanging out in the Microsoft booth, and he would walk by, and he would stop wherever he was headed to just say, "Hey, Mike, how's it going? How's the family?" He'd talk for a minute or two, and then say, "Hey, man, I gotta run, but I just wanted to stop and say hi." Do you know how much that that means so much
He's
to
like
you?
the best dude.
He's one of my favorites. He will go down as one of my favorites. I'm so sorry to see him leave the industry. I know he's going to do something that he loves in Liverpool football. I tried to get him on before he left, but I'm leaving that same guilt I left you out there for him. Anytime you want to come on the show, he was kind of bound by EA and his schedule, but no, always a great guy.
He's awesome.
Yeah, I'm sorry to see him leave the industry. I really am. All right, gentlemen, do we have any other great questions?
I have one more last question.
You're really gonna ask?
I know you can't name the name, but do you know what Project Scorpio will be named, or is it like super secret and?
It's crazy. Literally, nobody knows.
He's been building up for that one.
Yeah.
But we're gonna be. We're gonna
my
be,
pay grade.
You just work here. Sorry, you don't get the name.
We are going to be live. So the other thing too is we're going to be live streaming the show. Like in the. We're going to be having it and doing live reactions. So we are going to live react to you, Chris. I just want you to know. So be on.
If you blink 3 times, we'll know that you told us something.
Right. A shout out would be awesome.
It's not in the script.
Pretty much.
By the way, my friends over at Next Level Gaming. That would be, Anyway, but we're looking forward to seeing what you guys are doing for E3, and we are looking forward to. I always look forward to the ID at Xbox portion of that conference, and we are looking forward to it again. Somebody did ask earlier if there were some new indie IPs coming. I would assume that's a yes. That's coming to E3. I would assume so. I don't think anybody wants to see the exact same
one or
stuff
two games, just one or two.
And of course, we want to see. Go ahead.
More than happy to talk about what we're doing at this year's E3. The day
after
E3 is over.
Yeah.
I totally understand that, but I think the things we are going to be looking for. We want to know when Cuphead is coming out. We want to know when Below is coming out because that's another game that we're kind of anxiously waiting on that we haven't heard a whole lot on recently, and I'm sure you can't, but there are a couple of games in the program that we are very much looking forward to getting more information on. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Hopefully, I think it's gonna be a good E3. So I don't know. We'll all know in a couple weeks.
Yes, we will. I know it's coming
already.
So we're gonna have to have you on sometime after E3 so you can finally tell us all the stuff that we saw.
That sounds good.
You are actually, honestly, you are welcome on anytime. This has been fantastic, and
thank you for joining us.
Thanks a lot, guys. Thanks for having me on. And Saro's messed up last week.
Don't worry. Oh my God, man! Stop apologizing. It is not a big deal. It actually worked out.
Go cook some dinner. So
yes, it actually worked out great. You should. So, all right, real quick to the chat room. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with us. You guys asked some really good questions. It was. We always have a good chat room. We have some great listeners and some great fans. If you are watching this later on and you're wondering how you can get in on all this great action, we are live Sundays at 9. That means you too, creepy bunny who keeps coming in late. So, Chris, once again,
before we close it up, though, I do want to make a real quick shout out to Witty because he was our runner-up in the Forza Bounty Hunt that it just held, and so that closed right before the show, and he had the fastest non-me time, and so he's going to win a code for $10 on Xbox Live to put towards one of those great ID at Xbox games.
Nice. All right.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah. Peter, Juan, Nathan, Jason, thank you as always. You're my crew. Love you, Chris. Thank you so much. This meant a lot to us for you to come on, and we definitely want to have you back whenever you want.
Cool. Yeah. Thanks a lot for having me. Thanks, guys, and we'll see you later.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right,
All right.
dude. We are
Okay.
out.
Thanks, Chris.
Everybody have a great Sunday. We will see you next week, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And as always, play on, gamers.
Game on. And
See you
Ghost
guys.
Recon.
Ghost Recon.
Nope. Hold on. Hit the wrong thing.
Oh, that was fun. Stretch.
I think I still got some birthday cake left. Go ahead.
Oh, birthday cake.
Cake.
Wow, he rolled out.
It's an idea Xbox 500 cake. HTK needs no cake.
No cake.
He's on a diet. Frankie wasn't here. He gets no cake.
Yeah.
It's a trap. Don't follow us on Twitter.
Might have to find some better music.
2 weeks.
The original
Be
Next
back
Level
with a
Gaming.
new retro rec in 2 weeks.